Hey there, I'm Lance and I'm a gamer.
And I'm Sam, and I'm a non-gamer.
We are Love to Hate, where we help gamers find great games to play with non-gamers.
And today we're looking at Intarsia by Pegasus Spiele.
Intarsia is a beautiful game with lots of wooden pieces, and with this one you are going to be making a beautiful floor arrangement with these wooden pieces. And this is a game in which you are going to be using cards to cash in on these different wooden pieces, trying to make out these different contracts, being the first player to fulfill those contracts so that you can get the rewards and bonuses from them before the other players can. But this is also a game in which you pay to do something and you get something back that's going to allow you to stay in the round a little bit longer. So you're wanting to chain up your actions to be able to allow you to stay in the round for as long as possible, because once you've run out of different cards to use, then you have to pass for the rest of the round. So that's this type of game where you just got to keep doing actions that allow you to stay in the round for as long as possible. So that's the idea with this one. But let's go down to the table where we'll learn how to play it, and then we'll come back and we'll share our thoughts on it as a gamer and non-gamer. All right, I have Intarsia on the table. Let me show you all about this floor pattern building game. Now, I can't fit all the components on screen, so I'm going to show them to you a little bit at a time. Each player is going to have their own player board that's going to have a border that matches their player color. And in the center of your player board, you're going to start with one of these wooden connector pieces that are going to go right here on this spot. And I do want to point out the boards are double-sided. There's an A side and a more advanced variant on the back, the B side. You do have a scoreboard in the middle of the table that's going to look like this. And I know this looks a little bit busy, and I'll explain what this is here in just a minute, everything that's going on the inside of this. But just know that on the outside of this is going to be a score track. You do also have lots of cards that are in the game, and we'll come back to that as well. And then there's going to be another sideboard that is going to have lots of tiles on it. This is a very important component to the game, trying to gather up these little tiles. These tiles that you see out here are the tiles that you'd be playing in a two-player game. There are going to be different tiles that you would use in a three-player game, as well as a four-player game. And then the last component that I'll show you, I've actually kept in the box because I want you to see the box insert, are all the wooden pieces. And there are lots of wooden pieces in this game. You've got these painted frames. Now, you are only going to play with a certain number of these depending on the number of players in the game, but you are going to have lots of more connectors, these inner frames, and then these frames that go inside of those frames, and these little table pieces that are going to go in the center of everything that you're making. And as you can see, the insert here has designated spaces for all the components, which is really pretty nice. Now, let's talk about how this game is going to work. What you're going to be trying to do in this game is trying to build these patterns that you see here on your board, and you're wanting to time this out in just a way that will allow you to be able to not only gain these bonuses that are on these tiles over here, but your turns are going to be comboed. And when you play your cards to do one of these things, you'll be receiving cards in return for what you've just done, and that will allow you to stay in the round longer. And that is something very important that you want to do in this game, is stay in the round as long as possible. You're going to be playing 3 rounds, and each round is going to have 3 phases. The first phase is going to start with receiving one of these 5 cards. And in the beginning of the game, you'll get this at random, but in later rounds, it's the player who stays in the round the longest in the previous round that gets to choose first on these. And you're going to see different hands of cards that are going to be dealt. So in this particular case, you're receiving 2 of every color, including 2 wilds, whereas in this case, you're getting 2 yellow, 3 green, 4 purple, and 1 wild. And there's some other examples of what you might get. So you take one of these cards and you take the matching cards that are on it. So let's say that this is my hand right here. I would get 2 yellow, 3 green, and 4 purple, and 1 wild. So we're going to go ahead and deal myself that real quick. And with these cards are going to allow me to do the actions that I would do in the second phase of the round, which is going to be the building phase. Now, everything costs cards in this game to be able to play, and the breakdown of that is reminded to you on the back of the rule book. So you want to build frames because whatever you build in this game has to be adjacent to something that is already on your board. And in this case, what you start with, this connector right in the middle of your board, the very first thing that you're going to be building has got to be one of the 4 frames that are adjacent to the connector. And any frame costs 1 card, but it has to be the color of the ornament. In other words, it has to be the color of the frame that you're trying to build. So with my hand of cards, I could build a yellow frame, a green frame, a purple frame, or I've got this wild, so I could pretty much build any frame that I want with this wild. Now you can exchange any 2 cards to make 1 card of any other color. And so if I didn't have orange, let's say, I could change in 2 of these cards for an orange to be able to build an orange frame. But in this case, I'm just going to stick with purple since I have a lot of purple. So I'm going to exchange 1 purple, putting it back into the supply, and I would take one of those purple frames. And again, these are limited supply, so this is first come, first serve, and I would have to place it on a matching spot that is adjacent to something already built on my board, and voila, I've done what I've done. And now, in most cases, when you build one of these things, you're going to be receiving something after you have built it. But in this case, I'm not going to receive anything because you don't get anything when you build a frame. Now, the other thing that you're going to be doing during your build phase is checking to see if you've fulfilled any of the requirements for one of these bonuses on this board. And as you can see, there's lots of different bonuses, but I just built 1 purple frame, and if I had 2 purple frames on my board, I could claim this bonus right here, which would give me 1 point immediately. But if I had any of these table saw-like tiles, which are all going to be in this column right here, if I had any of those, I would receive the points on those again as well. So you really want to try to get these big bonus point ones early on in the game because you can score them multiple times every time you get something in that column throughout the course of the game. So that's how these are going to work for you. First come, first serve on these. Once one of them is taken, it's gone. You cannot get that bonus. That player gets to keep that bonus for the rest of the game. So that's how that is going to work. Now, this is 1 at a time, so I've built my frame and it would go on to the next person and they would do something and then around the table, and then when it comes back to me, I could build again. So what are the other things that you can build? Well, you can build a midsection, which is the thing that's going to go inside the frame, and it's going to cost 2 cards, again, of the same color as the ornament, which is whatever color the frame is. So in this case, I would pay 2 cards, 2 purple cards, or I could pay 1 purple and 2 of any other color, or I could use my wild and pay like this, but as it is, I'm just going to stick with the purple and pay my 2 purples to get that midsection, which is going to go right inside the frame like so. And when I've built a midsection, I do get something back. I get 1 material card of any color except the ornament's color or wild. So I could take one of the other colors. Let's say I take yellow, because what I need to keep in mind here is I can only build where I'm adjacent to. And so maybe I branch out to this yellow one and then work my way over to the orange and so forth. But really, I probably want to go this direction because I already have 1 purple and I want to start working on a 2nd purple so that I could get some of those bonuses that I showed you earlier. But anyhow, that's how this game is going to work. If you were to build a core, it's going to cost you 3 cards of the ornament's color, and you'll get 2 material cards back. Again, you can't take them from the ornament's color or wild. Now, if you build that table, it's going to cost you 4 of the ornament's color, and the connector's also going to cost you 4 materials of any 1 color of your choice. And instead of getting a set number of cards back, you'll look to the center board here for what your reward is, because on the center board, there's going to be a marker that is going to start in this spot right here. And anytime a player builds that table, that white table piece, which again is going to look like this right here, or if they turn in 4 cards of any 1 color to get one of these connector pieces so that they can branch out onto their board, they're going to advance this marker 1 or 2 spaces on this track. And you can take whatever your marker reaches to. So if I go right here, I'm going to take 2 cards of any 1 color and a 3rd card of a different color. Had I gone here, I'll get 3 purple cards. And as you can see, it's going to change throughout the course of the game wherever this marker is at for you. And players will continue to go around building one thing at a time until each player passes. Now, when you pass, you're out of the round, and it'll continue to go around until all players have passed. Whoever is the player who passed the last will get first pick at what they want to start the next round with, choosing from these 5 cards. And from that player, it'll go around clockwise. Each player will take 1 card, and that'll determine what you get for the next round. There is scoring at the end of every round. At the end of the first round, you are going to give yourself 1 point for every connector that you have on the board. In the second round, you'll get 2 points for every connector. And in the third round, you'll get 3 points for every connector. Now, in addition to those points, again, you'll be receiving the points for the tiles that you have received whenever you take new tiles. Again, that scores you extra points for the ones you already have in that particular column, but at the end of the game, you'll be receiving points for everything that you have built. You'll get 1 point for every single frame on the board. You'll get 3 points for every frame with a midsection. You'll get 7 points for every frame with a midsection and a core. And you'll get 12 points for anything that is fully built with the table in the middle. And that's pretty much the gist of the game. Whoever has the most points at the end is going to be the winner. And again, there's an advanced variant on the back side of this that basically is just going to spice up the game a bit. There are rules in the back of the rule book. I'll leave you to discover that on your own, but just know that it's going to have extra spots on the board for placing connectors that are going to give you extra points if you can get to them. But anyhow, that's the gist of the game. Let's go back up top and share our thoughts on Intarsia.
And we're back, and now we're going to share our thoughts on Intarsia from a gamer and non-gamer's perspective. So, Sam, the first thing I want to ask you about with this one is that it comes with 150 different wooden pieces, wooden elements in this one. And that was the first thing I noticed when I saw this at Gen Con this past summer. Looked very interesting out on the table. Looked, all these different wooden pieces. This is a heavy box, by the way. What were your thoughts seeing this out on the table?
I mean, it really, and I don't necessarily know why, but it reminds me of, and now I'm going to forget the name,
Azul.
Yes, Azul. Gosh, one of my favorite games. I kept thinking Splinter. No, it definitely reminds me of Azul. Just the patterns and just making things out of pieces. It just, definitely very Azul-ish.
Well, and these pieces have like interlocking, connecting parts that just kind of slide right in. And that's very satisfying to put these pieces in together.
And I love a game that doesn't have like a theme,
This is very abstract.
Yes, I love an abstract.
Theme,
but
it's abstracting.
Yes.
But no, the way that this one looks out on the table with these different wooden pieces, and they're painted and they're beautifully handcrafted. Well, I don't know if they're handcrafted, but they look like they could be. It's very gorgeous.
Yeah.
I like the way it looks out on there. But let's talk about the gameplay experience. So you all watched the rules portion of the video. You know that this is a game in which you're trying to gather up these cards to pay to do different actions. The actions you do, depending on how much you pay to do them, give you more cards back for certain things. So you're just lining up these different actions to, again, stay in the round as long as possible. What did you think about that?
I definitely think it's one of those games that you'll want to play again, and you'll get better as you play it. I did find the first time I played, there's a lot to focus on, and wanting to focus on one area and needing to make sure that, and I did lose because I didn't manage my time and my spaces well. But it's one of those games where it's still enjoyable. You're making something, you're putting things together, and as you go, you're like, oh, I wish I would have done it this way. I want to play again so I can try to do better.
Yes, I would agree with that 100%. I found myself thinking that a lot of times too, of why did I do that?
Because once that card's gone, then you're like, that was my whole strategy. And you have to be able to change it up.
But there were also times too where I found myself saying, thinking back on a turn 2 or 3 moves before, where it was like, what was I thinking? Why did I do that? Because now I find myself going this way, and I'm going in 2 different opposite directions that don't work with each other.
It's just one of those games where you have to really focus on what your strategy is going to be, and that's going to change each time you play it, I think.
For sure. I love the competition for those cards. I feel like that's such a vital part of the gaming experience with this one. It stings whenever somebody gets that card before you, but that's such
a fun
I
experience.
do feel like this game is a good game for non-gamers, but that part specifically could
might
hurt.
sting a little bit.
Yeah,
too much,
because a gamer may be better just because they're in that gaming mindset at getting those cards. And when you start to miss out on this one, then this one, then this one, you just...
That can be tough.
Yeah.
It can be tough. But I think that's a fun, challenging experience of this one, that if you did not have that with this game, it might feel like another
If it was
run-of-the-mill
just putting them together, it wouldn't have been enough.
Yeah, another run-of-the-mill tiling kind of experience. But you're really racing for those. That's a fun aspect. Plus, I feel like there's a very nice spatial element with this game, in that you really have to think through where you're going to be placing these pieces on your board, because going back towards trying to compete for those cards, like you need two the purple framing parts.
Yeah.
Well, you can't put purple frames just anywhere, so you got to branch out here to get to one purple frame.
That's the same
then you
thing.
got to branch out here to get to the other one, and it's like,
where you're like, why did I do that too? Yeah.
Like, that's where that "what was I thinking" comes in so much. And when somebody takes that card away from you, then it's like, well, now I built this up. What
And
is
I
it
can't
good for?
yeah.
I don't know. It's a fun, frustrating kind of experience.
It's not the kind of frustrating where you're like, what's the point?
Yeah.
It is fun.
Because you can eventually find another way to use that.
There's enough going on in the game where it's not like, well, once that's gone, I have no plan. You just have to be able to change your plan.
Yeah. All right, let's get to our pros and cons for this game. Sam, what to you stands out, the highlight bullet points with this one?
I mean, I just like the puzzle pieces. I think that they fit really nicely together. It looks really pretty. The components are just really nice in this game.
Yeah. Top-notch component production-wise on this one.
Yeah, they're wooden. I think it wouldn't be the same if it was cardboard.
Yeah, if they were tokens, wouldn't have worked out great.
Yeah.
If it was lightweight plastic, that wouldn't have been as nice.
They did a really good job.
For sure. Also, with that, I love I know some people might look at this and be like, oh, it's kind of wooden and muted, maybe even drab. I don't know. That's a harsh word, I think.
I think it's calming.
I think it's like this calming, natural look to it.
Yeah.
I don't know, and that really just goes along with the wood
It is neutral, but I wouldn't say it's boring.
Not drab, neutral.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. But I like that about it. I don't know. There's just a different kind of look to it.
We have enough super colorful games.
Yeah, for sure. So I like that aspect of the way it looks out on the table.
Yeah.
Gameplay wise, what were the highlights for you there?
I mean, I definitely think that the cards, that's the biggest. I mean, it's nice to put things on your table or card. I don't know what it is. Tablecloth, and see it out. But I think getting the cards is for sure the highlight.
Yeah.
And then playing the pieces and getting more cards and using that to think about what's your next. Yeah.
That's very fun with this one.
Yeah.
That's the challenging part too, right? Like, I want to do this, but I know it's not going to give me the cards back, and so I got to do this instead to get the cards to stay in the round to do this. Like, you gotta think ahead.
I think it's good for non-gamers. It does teach a lot of those basic strategy skills.
Sure. Yeah, for sure. For me, one of the things about that I really like is that there are turns that sort of feel like you can build up to something and then cash in for major points, and it's very rewarding. It's a very rewarding experience of, look what I did. I just did these three things that led up to that gave me these huge points, and that's it makes you feel smart. So that's a good part with this one. Anything that doesn't work so great for you with this one?
I wouldn't say there's any like hardcore negatives. What was that piece called again?
The center scoring board is a little busy.
I really had to be like, just tell me. It was difficult for me to read. Not to mention you already have your board in front of you, then you have the cards, and then you have the scoring board. So it's a lot to look at.
Yeah.
It was nice that Lance just kind of said, okay, this is what you do.
Well, in all honesty, we the first time we got this game out on the table, and I mentioned I saw it at Gen Con, but I didn't get a chance to play it at Gen Con. First time playing it together, we didn't even notice that the center scoring board actually reminds you of a lot of some of the stuff to do on particular parts of a turn. And it was only until our second playthrough that we saw that, and we were like, oh, well, that's what that's all about. And so
I think it's so busy that you don't even realize maybe what it's telling you, which maybe that's just us being dumb.
But then once you figure it out, it's fine.
For me, I think maybe, going back to that stinging aspect of missing out on some of those cards. I agree with Sam. That could be kind of maybe a little bit of a drawback with those non-gamers, that could feel like, like I said, I was working up towards getting that, and you took it out from under my feet. Now, what do I do with this? So that's just, some people might be burned by that. For us, that was a fun part of the game.
Yeah.
I think most people will find it fun, but you could run into those who find it maybe a little difficult. One other small nitpick, the different tool icons that might be on some of those cards that are part of that scoring, set scoring, those are so small and they look a lot, they look similar that you do kind of have to look at them.
I think I remember us saying that, I wish they were bigger on those cards.
I wish it was just more distinct, because a lot of them are the same color or look very similar, and so it can be easy to make mistakes when you're not paying attention to that. So. All right, let's get to our scores for this one. Scale of 1 to 10, love to hate for this game. I'll go first and share my thoughts on this one. This is definitely going to be a top 10 game of the year.
Which is getting close because it's November. I just realized how close our top 10 is coming.
Yeah. Where this fits in my top 10 is pretty tough because I feel like this could go anywhere in here. But man, I really do like this game. So I'm gonna give this one an 8.5. Like that. This one is really. Is that where you're gonna be at too?
I was gonna say,
I love the way this one unfolds. I love the way it looks out on the table. It gives me so many different emotional experiences as I'm playing this one. This is not a boring game, despite what some people have said about the way it looks. It's not a boring game. This is a very.
It's okay to have.
Yes.
Calming, neutral games.
I think so too. It's a very interesting game. Lots of different experiences with the way that it plays out. I don't know. I really like it. 8.5 for me. Any thoughts on why it's 8.5 for you?
I mean, same reasons. Yeah. I don't know. I have a lot this year. I think the top 10 is going to be very difficult.
Yeah.
If it's not in my top 10, it's going to be in the honorable mention. I don't know. We have so many.
We have a lot.
Yeah, we have a lot this year, so we'll see. But yeah, it's a great game, and I do like how it looks, because it is different than a lot of what we have.
The game is Intarsia, or I'm not sure. Intarsia. Okay, so. We're not 100% sure what this game is, but anyhow, you can see what it is. It is from Pegasus Spiele. I know that much, and it is a very nice, beautiful game. So. Leave us your comments down below. Let us know what you think about this one and what you think about Pegasus Spiele.
Make sure to like and subscribe and push that bell button so you get notifications of all our new content.
I'm Lance.
I'm Sam.
And we are Love to Hate, where we bridge the gap between gamers and non-gamers. We'll catch you next time.